In this video, I'll show you one of the most effective hip mobility drills that will increase your lower body's natural range of motion by unlocking your hips and improving your overall strength, endurance, and muscle awareness. Let's jump into this 90-90 mobility drill. Let's start off with single leg rotations. From a seated crab position, externally rotate your hip, bringing your knee to the floor or as close as you can. Then internally rotate that same hip, also bringing your knee to the floor or as close as you can. Slowly move back and forth between inward and outward rotations. Keep your core stabilized so the rotation stays in your hips. These are opening up your hips and getting them ready to move. This flows right into the elevated hip rotations, where you are lifting your hips off of the floor and completing the same internal and external rotations. This provides a greater area for your hips to rotate through in order to get that knee onto the floor. It also activates your glutes more since you are holding your hips up to remain stable as you rotate. Place your hips back on the floor and continue to double leg rotations. Starting in a loose 90-90 position or Shin Box position with your front leg externally rotated and your foot placed right above the knee of your back leg, which is internally rotated. Simultaneously rotate both hips and transition to the other side. Use your hands behind you to assist in these rotations. The movement should be controlled and you should feel all of this rotation in your hips. Keep everything very tight, from your hand placement to your feet placement. Get as much flexion as you can in your knee. This will ensure you keep control of the entire movement and will get you ready for the next progression. Hand-free hip rotations. We do the same leg rotations, this time with your arms out in front of you. Now the entire movement has to come from the hips with no assistance. Try to keep your feet in the same position, so actively push your feet into the ground. This keeps the rotation in your hips and keeps you from sliding forward. It also helps if you squeeze your core and rotate your torso. Your arms in front of you are acting as a counterbalance. So if you want to increase the intensity of this movement, don't reach your arms out. Keep them aligned with your chest as you rotate. This removes a lot of the counterbalance. So really push your heels into the ground and squeeze your core to work through this range. This may be challenging in the beginning for some. Your hips may not be used to working in this circular fashion, but as you keep at it, you'll gain more control of your hips, making them more resilient and healthier overall. Now let's add the next element, hand-free hip rotations plus back leg lift, where we add this back foot lift at the end of each rotation. This is challenging your internal rotation, which is often overlooked and tight in a lot of people, especially if you sit for extended periods of time. This activates all of your hip abductor muscles and pushes your internal rotation to open up. So you will feel this in your outer thigh all the way up to your glutes. Now, as you rotate, you want to make sure you are sitting all the way into the Shin Box position before lifting your foot. Your glute may want to pick up, as I'm showing you here. This is a sign of tight muscles. So take an extra second to sink all the way down, breathing into this position. Once you can comfortably complete 8 to 10 internal leg lifts per side, advance to the 90-90 reach. Widen your Shin Box position, getting a full 90-90 or close to it, in which both legs are bent at a 90-degree angle. Lift your back leg, this time also bringing your knee off the ground, and in a controlled fashion, bring your knee around, straightening your knee as you fully extend your leg in front of you. Then swing it back around, bending at the knee and going back into that inward rotation onto the floor. This should be one fluid motion that utilizes your hip joint's full ball and socket abilities. It's okay to use your hands as guidance at first as you get used to the flow, but the goal is to get to a point where you require minimal counterbalance to complete this movement. So keep your glutes squeezed through the entirety of the movement. It also helps to tighten your quad muscle, especially when extending your leg in front of you. Shin Box Bridge. Starting from a shin box position, sit up by driving your hips up and forward, squeezing your glutes and your core, and then sitting all the way back down, getting your glute fully to the floor and sinking into that position. Rotate to the other side just like before with our 90-90 switch, then drive your hips up and forward. You're going to feel a deep stretch in your front hip flexor. So make sure you are squeezing your glutes and pushing your hips through at the top, very similar to what you would do at the top of a squat. Now you are really getting into strengthening and mobilizing your hips. Once you feel good and strong here, your next challenge is to pull everything we've been working on thus far into one fluid movement, the shin box lunge. So I'm showing you this move in a fragmented way right now, just so you can see each piece and how the previous movements help you build up to this. So use your 90-90 hip rotation, then bridge your hips up. Bring that back leg forward, getting that foot planted on the ground in front of you, and go into a deep lunge. Then swipe your foot back around, sitting back into your shin box position, getting that glute all the way down. Rotate to the other side and repeat. This requires hip flexibility and mobility, of course, but coordination, balance, and muscle control also play a key role here. So no shame in using your hands as support in the beginning as you work through this flow. As you advance, work towards making your movement completely hands-free and as fluid as possible. This is how you gain strong rotator hip muscles and strong glute muscles, in which you can access their strength from any position. This hip mobility drill is designed to unlock deep ranges of motion while actively building muscle control, strength, and endurance. So take your time as you progress through this routine. If you find your hips are really stiff and you're challenged to progress, check out this video right here. It's the perfect starting point for ungluing your hips, and it complements this video nicely. Either way, drink more water and have a great day.